It's showtime at the Apollo. All right, not necessarily the Apollo, but it is Saturday. Is it March? March 14th, 2026, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be talking about some fun stuff today, advice and mentorships, as one should. That's right. Today's lesson is going to be Stop Going Solo, how to build your author team. Basically, how to surround yourself with the right people. And because, let's be honest, sometimes it feels like a lonely career to be sitting here writing on our keyboard and not realizing that it's not that kind of career. You're allowed to have people around you, and you should. So we are going to talk about that today. Let's get to the wall and say hello to everyone. SB, what's up? Hello. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, yeah. Oh, Flowers is here. Hello, Flowers. Hello. And we got Angel Faye. Ciao, Bello. Ciao, Bella. All right. Ooh, ciao, Bella. It's Emma. What is up, young lady? Dun, 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 dun. 1 second. Somebody wants to know how to join the live. Boom, boom. Hey, Angel Faye. Hey, hey, hey. All right, like I said, today is going to be talking about mostly, building your team and what kind of team you should have, but also the fact that we're not alone in this industry. We don't have to just be writing our books, and you shouldn't be. You should be building some sort of community that helps you develop as a writer and also your career. Let's be honest. We want to have careers in this, right? Hi, Emma. All right. I also like to point out we do have a poll today. Why did you choose the specific story you're writing? We have, it's the book I needed to read. All right. Then we have to process a personal emotion. And then we have to start my career / making a living. And of course, I had no choice but to write it. We'll talk about that poll at the end of this session. But as we always know, if you have questions about your own writing while I am talking about this lesson, if you have questions about what it is I'm talking about, just feel free to ask them in the section below, and I'll be happy to do the aside and talk to you, because I do this for you guys. But we also need content to talk. So I am a developmental editor and a writing teacher. So it's like free advice. You had a siren. Oh, you had a siren. Angel Faye, I hope you're okay. Whenever you pop up, it makes me feel better that I know you're okay and your family's okay. That's the good part. What's up, Mr. Alex? Your energy is infectious, sir. That's why you need to have you always have to get your vaccination shot of Thomas, just so it doesn't take you over. I watched Emma and TJB do a live editing session. It was pretty awesome. I had a lot of fun doing that editing session with Emma to by the way, it was very easy. Like, she gave me advice and suggestions, and I wasn't like, no, this is how I wrote it. It was very comforting, and the other thing is her personality is just wonderful. So she wasn't like, you must change this. She's like, we should try, or could we try? And that, it just made it very easy peasy. If you haven't seen that episode, anybody, I recommend going there. We edit a chapter in real time. Not that is how editing works in real time. Usually they give you notes and then you get the notes, but we did a real time edit. It was very nice. Tom makes anyone awesome. I will send you a check, Emma. Only chapter 1 felt like it was a murder. To be fair, it was an epic fantasy novel. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to read my lesson to you, and then we'll talk about it at the end. It just makes it easier because I just write everything out. So, again, if you have thoughts, questions, or ideas, feel free to ask as we go. All right. Boop, 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 boop. Look, no one author can build a lasting career in a vacuum of isolation. Even the most independent and successful authors need others to lean on for the most important truth, perspective, encouragement, and plain old reality checks. A personal board of advisors is a handful of trusted people you turn to. Okay? Now, I'm using board of advisors to elevate the reality of what a strong group of friends can be, but ultimately, they are friends. They are people you believe in and people who believe in you. I'm not necessarily talking about formal meetings. We're not doing. Hey, we got to keep track of these times. All right, it's not always about like, hey, we got to stay on agendas, but it does need to be a circle of voices you respect, voices that bring something different to the table. All right. Now, these people might be other writers. They might be industry professionals or friends who get you, who understand what you're trying to accomplish beyond your books. The point is to surround yourself with support that helps you grow, makes you make smarter choices, and stay grounded when the path gets bumpy. P.S. You have to reciprocate. Now, a little something something about that. When I was in the music industry, a lot of my friends were other musicians. Makes sense, right? But it wasn't until I started developing relationships with mentors that were record label people or that people they handled magazines. There was a time when I was writing for Good Times magazine, and the reason I did that because it let me get into bigger events. It's how I got to meet Motorhead. It's how I got to go, I got to go do these big things. But it also gave me a chance to get into the world of movies and television because I started getting free tickets as a reporter. I use that very loosely. As a reporter for this magazine to go see movies. And when I went to the movies, who did I get to meet? Some of the producers, some of the writers, some of the event coordinators. That was my first time ever meeting a Disney exec, right? And I developed relationships with them. It wasn't a hello, how are you, thank you. It was a hello, how are you? I'd love to get your number. And then it was a follow-up email, not can you help me, but hey, that was really fun. I had a lot of good times. Those relationships turned to lunches. Still didn't talk business, but I developed relationships that eventually helped me when I got into the next part of my career, which is acting. When I stepped into acting and comedy and all that, I became friends with who? Not just other comedians, but managers, people who ran events, people who owned the clubs. Some of my closest friends were the club owners, and other comedians would be like, "How are you getting gigs on these in these events?" I go, "Because I'm friends with the owners." And they're like, "Oh, I thought you had to go through these competitions, and like after six shows of bringing at least 10 people, and not getting paid, that they'll accept you in." And I'm like, "Well, you can do it that way. There are many paths." But my point is, I started surrounding myself with professional level relationships because I felt I was a professional and I wasn't trying to get on stage. I was trying to build a career in comedy and ultimately acting, which is why I got involved with the SAG studio or SAG AFTRA union. This got me involved with a lot of the uppers. It got me involved with other actors. It got me to meet agents. It got me to meet casting directors. It got me to meet all these people, but as peers. And that's the key. Even as a writer, I don't just try to be friends with writers. I try to make lasting relationships with people that have similar or like-minded missions. And those missions are that we want to do better in this career. We want to work with people that are taking action. For example, I had friends who were actors, but they worked a day job and never ever went and hung out at events. They never went to networking events. They didn't want anything to do with the union because, well, until I get a lead role in a show or a movie, I'm not gonna get into the union because then I can't do these other little things. And I'm like, don't do these other little things. Get involved with the union. You'll meet your opportunities. And it's the same thing with writers. Okay, there is a difference between going to a book event like a book market and you have a table versus you getting involved with that event. You having a table, sure, do it. But who are the people to your left and right? And it's not just hello, how can you help me? It's let me build a relationship with the authors that are taking steps. All right? So the people you surround yourself become the world you live in. All I'm saying is, if you become friends with people that don't take action, that aren't proactive, that just sit back and they just write books, but they don't get involved. They don't celebrate others. They don't support others. They don't want anyone, they don't talk about anything that they're doing until something is, oh, I got a book, it's done, you should buy it, 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 buy it. You don't want that surrounding you, and you don't want to be that in other people's groups. My point is, you want to find friends, industry professionals, and other writers. You want to find people that are thinking like you. There was one of my main mentors once told me, if you believe this was in the music industry. He goes, if you believe music is what makes you money in the industry, you will never ever make money in this industry. And I've taken that mentality and I says, oh, books don't make you money. What makes you money? Does the book make you money? Or is it the marketing? Is it the building a voice in the community? Is it creating authority? Not that I am saying Brandon Sanderson is the greatest writer in the world and blah, blah, blah. What I am saying is, what does Brandon Sanderson do that equates to sales? First and foremost, he has a massive brand. Second, he is constantly marketing. Third, he creates opportunities for the people who want him, right? The desire, right? You got to supply and demand, the demand. And he makes these specialty books, these leather bounds, the big books. But then he starts doing Dragonsteel. But what does he do? He brings other writers. And then you hear the truths behind the whispers of the reality, which his writing team, the people he knocks ideas off of, aren't the people that he hires. It's other writers he grew up with, other writers he went to class with, other writers that are doing things, other writers that he ends up doing the interviews with. He is going beyond buy my book, and he is creating a voice in the community. He stopped working with Amazon and Audible to help the independent author. He's trying to get away from traditional publishing and just maintaining that whole Kickstarter thing. Why? He's trying to give power back to the small person, the people who are trying, the self-published authors. My point is, he's creating a presence, and he's doing it at a level that is definitely worth investigating or studying, and not necessarily to do exactly what he's doing. Like, obviously, he has certain things that he's doing that is very Sanderson. But he is surrounding himself by the right people. He is building community with people. He is allowing things to grow naturally and to be more than his book. And that's why Kiss was so big. Kiss was more than Buy My Music. Kiss was a show. Kiss was a family. The Kiss Army. You can join the Kiss Army. Something that made Marvel massive was that Stan Lee had a thing at the end of all the comic books that basically you could become a fan member and become friends with Stan Lee, and he would answer letters, right? That was something that wasn't happening with other comic books. My point is, build a presence, build a community, and be more than the thing you make. And the best way to do that is literally finding people in your community, whether they are writers or not, whether they're in the industry or not. As long as they have that motivational mentality, that take steps mentality, that forward motion mentality, they will inspire better, stronger habits in you. What do we got here? Oh, hey, what's up, bro? What's up, bro? All right, let's move on. Before I get into the deep of it, remember, please subscribe to the channel. Let's all right, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. All right, so the value of an advisor, the value of bringing people on or people around you that can advise you, people that you trust when they do, right? So authors often face decisions no one else in their life fully understands, okay? So it's basically, oh, hi, bro. Basically, they're gonna come a point where somebody has to say, your manuscript is good, stop editing it. This is a fellow writer. This is a fellow writer friend who's an editor. This is a fellow friend who works in the industry. This is whatever the case is. You might not be directly working with them, but they are a loyal friend, and they tell you, look, the manuscript is ready. Let go. Let go of editing and wasting time. You're just taking away stuff now. The other thing is a contract. A lot of my friends reach out to me to read contracts because I have the business side studies of it, and I had the production company, and that's what we did, right? So, but also you need advisors to tell you if what you're doing is working. Are you marketing correctly, right? Again, I'm not telling you to go to people and be like, hey, I noticed your stuff and you should be doing this. But if you have a friend or you yourself need help, there is no weakness or devaluing rate to ask somebody to be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. I see you're doing really good with XYZ. Could you give me some pointers? You don't need to go deep into it. Just push me in the right direction. Now, the closer you are with this person, the more advice you could get from them, as long as you also give back. So if you have a skill and they have a skill, back and forth, right? So if somebody is, let's say, really good at book covers, and the other person is really good at beta reading or alpha reading, switch. Be like, look, I'll make you a cover. You do some reading for me. Hello. Hey, what's up, Laura? Hey, everyone. I'm making brownies. I'm going to get a brownie, right? You're all welcome over to enjoy them. Hell yeah. Oh, Emma. Yeah. Okay. Also, I want brownies. What's up, Richard? Okay, so where was I? Oh, yeah, advisors. All right. The also thing is, look, when it comes to people, when I talk about finding your group, finding your circle, hey, Richard, I'm talking about finding people that sit within the proximity of what you believe, your missions, morals, and purposes, the things that matter to you, your end goal, but also they don't have to be identical. You don't have to be friends with someone who agrees 100%, just similar, you know? For example, let's say you're an author, hypothetically speaking, of course, right? In fact, I would say you are an author if you're watching this. You're an author, and your goal is to create a foundational brand and develop something that speaks to a specific audience, all right? But then one of your friends who you want to get some advice from, all they care about is writing a book. They don't care about marketing. They don't care about a brand. They don't care about an audience. They go, look, I'm going to write the book. As soon as the book is done, it's so good, the book, it'll just sell itself. What kind of advice are you going to get from them? Think about it, right? Not that all advice is bad advice, because there's always a chunk of wisdom, or a pearl of wisdom, as one might say. But some people don't even write a book. But again, Richard, I would say that's not the important point of the conversation. Yet they think they know everything. Well, how about this? How about this? What if they aren't writing a book, but they do know everything about marketing? They do know a ton about networking. They do understand ads. A book, this is the thing, you do not want to isolate people who haven't finished a book, because some people might take 3 months, some people might take 4 years, some people might take 10 years. It's not the book, the thing that gives a person value, right? It's their perspective, it's their motivation, it's their foundation of thought, their process that gives a person that value. So whether they know anything about a book writing, or how about they know stuff about the industry? Okay, because writing a book is one thing, because you could finish your book and not get anything done. I got the book done, and you're like, I'm not getting sales. I can't get speaking engagements. I can't get interviews. I can't do this. I can't do that. But according to your comment, your theory, some people don't, and then they think they know everything. Well, they finished the book, so I'm going to listen to them. If they tell me, don't worry about getting interviews, don't worry about marketing, just write the book. I finished my book. I have a book. Look. That isn't the people you want to surround yourself with, because they're not forward momentum. They're just thinking, hey, I wrote this book. Now it's going to sell itself. Look, I did the thing. No, you want to learn other aspects, but you might not be an expert in it. You might not understand an area. So if you become friends with people that have an understanding that area, it's going to benefit your career in the long run. We do not judge people based on if they finished a book or not, because a book is a thing, and it does not devalue your knowledge. In fact, Some of the best swimming coaches in high schools and colleges, they themselves are not good swimmers or know how to swim. Look up Michael Phelps' coach. That's all I'm saying. Look up Michael Phelps' coach, and you will realize it is not about the thing. In fact, you could be an English teacher or a master of grammar or understand the lexicon in a way that illuminates the way you see story and yet still have never written a book. You can understand the process of writing a book. You can understand narrative structure. You could understand what dialogue truly is. You can understand the foundation of emotional truth within people and still have never written a book. And that does not devalue you from knowing what you're talking about. Remember, a thing is just a thing. All right, sorry about that. That was a rant of emotion. Wake up and smell the lack of reviews. Some people are also determined not to well, that accurate. Yes, some people don't want to hear. But again, my point to advising is not to go to people and be like, hey, I notice XYZ, I want to give you advice. But to be available for people if they go, hey, I notice you're really good at marketing. I notice you're really good at this. I notice you've been getting a lot of interviews and we're friends. I was wondering if you could just give me some tips. But also the other way around. If someone comes to you and they notice you're very good at something and they're a part of your circle, sit with them, give them advice. Thomas, I constantly get confused between the words marketing and networking. Could you humor me momentarily and define them for me yet again? Yes, absolutely. Networking is building and cultivating relationships to form a strong circle of influence. A circle of influence doesn't influence your career, it influences better, stronger habits. Let's go back to the definition. Building means to add people to that circle, so meeting new people. Cultivating means putting time into individuals to develop a relationship, because everyone is going to be either a stranger, an associate, a friend, or family. And your job is to take strangers and turn them into family, because just because you're blood doesn't necessarily mean you're family, and just because you're not blood doesn't mean you can't be family. So that is networking. Marketing is developing or designing a brand to build awareness, which creates interest and then ultimately generates sales by audiences buying into your brand's message. Let's go into that. Awareness is that people see it through presentation or representation through presentation. The interest is that they lean in, they go, oh, I like what's going on here. And then, of course, buying into it means they accept it. It's the reason people pay $100 for a hoodie from Metallica, right? So the big difference is networking is all about relationships, okay? And then marketing is all about the impression you leave on people. Now, the way I say is networking is, how do we, the people you know. Marketing is the people that know you. And then, of course, if we want to get into the real thing, practicing or understanding your industry is about knowing yourself, your strengths and weaknesses. So networking is about you knowing people. Marketing is about people knowing you. I hope that helped. I do listen. It's not about you, Emma. Kind of is. All right. I'll stick to cooking, I think. No. Flowers, I'm making pie. Because it's pie day. Emma, what is in the pie, please? That is true. We need to know what's in the pie. My teeth. My teeth. That's funny. Morning, Mallows. The better, Laura. It's chicken, leek, and pancita. All right. Hey, Mallows. Oh, yum, yum. Everyone beats to their own drum. Everybody beats to their own drum. Well, that I agree with. Everyone's going to approach it their own way. I am talking about a very specific thing. What's up, Sean? Just to be clear, Mallows, I'm not saying if people do the opposite or not even close to what I'm talking about, aren't doing it, quote unquote, the right way. I'm just presenting a path that has been quite helpful to me and has been blessed upon me through education and mentors and a long career within the entertainment industry. But there are millions of different paths to where we go. However, psychologically speaking, if you are surrounded by people that don't want to do anything else other than write a book, but believe that only writing the book will indeed make sales, meaning they will not market, they will not talk to anyone, they just want to sit at home, they don't want to deal, I don't want to do any of the business stuff, and therefore they don't know anything about it or are interested in it. There's nothing wrong with that, meaning like they can do that all they want. But advisors, you wouldn't want to be advised by someone that has no understanding or inkling or interest in the things that you're looking to do if you're looking for forward momentum. That's all I'm saying. I want to tell you all whose pages I frequent, books I've purchased and read, also your videos I've watched. I do all this to encourage and inspire you to succeed at what you're doing. That's beautiful, Ro. I love it. You're like a team player, man. I really hope you clip some verticals from this and repost them. I need them in my life. There are so many golden nuggets in the last 10 minutes alone. The marketing versus networking breakdown. You know, Alex, you have my book, and it is in there. The definition for networking and marketing is in that book. And there's an explanation of it, and it talks about it. I don't know if you've read it yet, but, you know, you could always ask me questions about it because you're a buddy. Sean, what is it? Sean Natron. Great idea. Yeah, but then who's gonna do that for me? You want to do it? No, actually, I could just hit the button on the thing and it does it. Boop boop. Emma. Philosophically, we may all differ from each other very much. In fact, even objectively, we differ from each other completely. And we may not agree with each other's messages. I agree. But I still think you all matter, have meaning and a purpose, and want to see you succeed. That's beautiful. I love that, bro. I give that 100% thumbs up. Let's give that one an applause. That was sexy. You were sexy with that. That was sexy. You were sexy with your ants. Okay, where are we? Oh, what's going on? Oh, I remember the days. I remembered the difference cause I read it. See? Flowers. Thank you, by the way, again, Flowers, for buying that book. I really appreciate you supporting me. All right, so I just want to finish up advisors and then I'll move on. So advisors, really, what you're looking for are people that respect your vision, even if their path differs. People that are honest without being harsh. You want honesty. You want somebody being willing to tell you something and trusting that they are not saying it to defile your relationship. You want advisors who have experience or insight that you may lack. So therefore, if you have a quote-unquote weakness or an area you're not necessarily an expert in, having somebody that has a little bit more experience in that is a strong advisor. Also, friends and stuff like that, you trust them enough to show unfinished work, or you have these raw fears. Like, there are things that I worry about with my writing sometimes that there are people I could show without, I'd be like, yeah, because I know they're not looking at it. Because here's the thing. If you send like an alpha read or something and it's a 0 draft and they're looking at it like it's a final polished draft and they're giving you advice based on it, you're not getting anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, your grammar here, or there's a lot of, and you're just like, well, you're not, you're just making me self-conscious because now you're making me feel like I have to make a 0 draft with all these bullet points perfect and finished before like, that's not what I'm looking for. So ixnay on the advice. And then finally, the relationship feels reciprocal. You listen to them too. That is so important in building friendships and community and relationships that help develop your relationship and your career. You need to be reciprocal. Reciprocal. Also, diversity will help with this too. You know, mix levels of success, genres, and backgrounds. So what that means is ultimately, just because somebody doesn't have a book, Richard, doesn't mean they have no value. If somebody has 10 books, that is also good to know. But you have to mix it up. You want variety. You want people working together, because ultimately, at the end of the day, people that aren't where you are where you were. You know what I'm saying? Like, they started where you were, and now you're in a place where you have some wisdom to give them, just like the people ahead of you have wisdom to give you. And it's really about fueling the people below you to help them get to where you are as you continue growing, and so forth and so forth. And that's how we build a strong, what did they say? The cream will rise to the top. Anyway, my point is, if your mission is to create an empire around your books, brand, and help others, and their advice or support always falls back to my band, hey, look at me, hey, look, I got a book, look at my book, they might not be really there to advise you. You know what I'm saying? So you want to find people that understand what's going on. Let's look at, we got some comments here. I'm not doing that. It is a great idea, but what you just said is better. I love it. Flowers have read and heard Thomas say stuff to me lots of times. That's right, I forget it too. That's why I wrote a book. That's why I actually wrote 5 books. It's so I don't have to remember it. Because now when people go, can you teach me? I go, hey, there's the book. It has everything I've ever learned. Hello, Emma. Love all your vibes in here. Thomas brings the vibes and the caffeine. All right. Hey, what's up, Afghani? It's good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Here's a couple things to think about when it comes to advisors, like what you're looking for. Think about. Yes. That's funny. And that's why. And that, sir, is why Thomas is paid the big bucks. I needed that. Afghani, did they move the clock? Yeah, the clock got moved forward. So everyone's telling me it's an hour change, which it is. It is an hour and change. It's just if I move this to 3 o'clock, that would actually mess me up. So I still start at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that really helps. You're a kind soul, Ro. The world needs more people supporting. Yeah, it's true. That's what I love so much about this computer. I agree. Ro is a wonderful man. Books flex alert. I didn't say, what is it? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I didn't say 10 books. I said 5. All right. Let's get to it. So here's 3 people that you could think about to be a part of your advisory group. People that have an understanding of craft and creativity. So these are the artistic people. These are, your writers and the people that understand narrative. Even if they don't have a book done, Richard. These are the people who help you and your craft. These are critique partners. These are people to remind you to practice. These are mentors within your genre or style of writing. Or they're editor friends who read early drafts. They keep your work honest and push you toward deeper storytelling. There are also people that say, hey, by the way, did you write today? Or, hey, you didn't tell me last night that you wrote stuff. I want updates, I know who you are out there. All right. The other thing is you want a business advisor. You want people that understand the industry. Because right now I could ask you as an audience, what's the difference between a manager and an agent? And I would happily assume that the majority of people who hear that question don't necessarily know the exact details between the two differences of what they are. And when it comes down to their service. It's been annoying, Afghani. It's funny. Well, I'm just feeling proud because I edited a 1.5 Woo! Woo! That gets an applause. Yeah. Let's hear it for flowers. I'm very proud of you, my friend. Get with the program and time travel with us, silly Americans. Wait, bro, aren't you in America? All right. So my point is you do want to have advisors that understand the industry, at least a little bit. Because when it comes down to contracts or dealing with, if you're going to get traditionally published, if you're dealing with managers or agents, if you're dealing with licensing rights, if you're dealing with, audiobooks, if you're dealing with the book markets, if you're dealing with in-store opportunities, if you're dealing with interviews, if you're there's so many elements to the business side, right? That helps with, that's marketing, networking, all that stuff, right? All of that stuff has points and purposes, and you need to understand those. And if you don't, but you have friends who do, that's going to be beneficial to you. And of course, a third kind of friend or advisor you should have, and by the way, there are many, but I'm only doing 3, is the psychological ones, the emotional ones, the people that are really your cheerleaders, you know? Even if they don't have a book, Richard. These are people that love writing or love reading books, but they don't necessarily write. These are people that support you, believe in you. These are people that just, they're going to tell you, hey, listen, this needs a lot of work, but I'm loving it. These are the people that are going to say, this is good. Stop working on it. Get it out there. These are people that are going to say, hey, I listened to your interview on the right mindset, and you were great. These are people that are going to say, look, you talked a lot about your book on that interview when you were on FM radio, and I didn't really learn about who you were. Maybe next time, shift it. Do some shifting, which is important in PR. You got to learn how to shift. I tell you, if somebody says, "Tell me about your book," you got to turn it into a brand answer. You got to turn it into something that's more that has empathy, that can allow people to connect to you. A real good example of that, by the way, if you watch Colbert, Jake Gyllenhaal was a guest just recently, and his sister Maggie, is it Maggie or Meggie? Maggie Gyllenhaal was a guest before him, like 2 days before or a day before. And she had a letter, and she goes, look, I'm going to put this letter in the chair, and I want my brother to get it since I know he's on tomorrow night. Anyway, so the next day, what happens? Well, Jake Gyllenhaal's there. Colbert goes, hey, your sister left you a message. He picks it up, and it says, you're a beast. And first of all, he connects it to the movie. He goes, oh, that's what this movie is about, is you're a beast. And then right from there, he shifts, and he goes into the story. He goes, my sister was doing a play, and she was having a hard time with it, and I went in there, and I just, I sat with her, and I was like, look, you're a beast. You're a beast. You got this. Da, 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 da. And I was very supportive. And then he says, and now every time either one of us has an opening night, they write it on the mirror, you're a beast. This is showing a brother-sister relationship. The brother and sister relationship worked on the film, which is about like Beauty and the Bride of Frankenstein. They talk about their history together, and then people watch this and they go, oh, I just love that they care about each other. And not, oh, she made a movie. Like, they're going to support that movie if you support Jake Gyllenhaal. It's the same thing like if Michael Jordan went back to basketball tomorrow, not baseball, no one would go to that. But if he went back to basketball tomorrow and he knew that he was going to be able to play, right? You know what I'm saying? People would storm back. It's sort of like when he left and went to play baseball and then came back, and they were just like, oh, and he was like bad at first, and they were like, oh, he's nobody, and then he turned into Michael Jordan again, and we were like, oh, right? It's because people follow the value of your brand, the value of who you are, and they see that through the things you say and not necessarily the things you promote. Like, how often, if we use Michael Jordan as an example, how often have we heard him in an interview going, hey, I'm Michael Jordan. You should buy my sneakers, the Air Jordans. They're really good. By the way, you could also pump them up on some of them. The Jordans, you should buy them. They're Nike sneakers. No, if ever. But it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. That's all I'm saying. All right. Okay. Let me just read off the right mindset perspective, and then we'll get to the polls and questions. Building your circle of influence is about knowing when and where to reach out. Remember, you don't want to just reach out to use people, but you do want to be able to ask for help, okay? It's okay to tell a real friend that you need to just talk, and it doesn't always have to be business. I have people I admire who I absolutely lean on. I have people I trust and people who I feel elevate me as much as I elevate them. Because having good people around you changes the game. So ask for help when and where you need it. But also be patient as you find your people. It's going to take time. Some connections click right away. Boom, bang, boom. Others grow very slowly. And a few might drift as your needs change, and that's okay. And what I mean by that is you might meet somebody, you might hit off, you might have everything right there and then, but some people more interested in, hey, I just want to be number one on the bestsellers list, so That's all I care about, and I'm just going to focus all my energy on that. And they end up not being very good people and friends because they just don't care. All right. But what matters is giving yourself permission to need others without guilt. It's okay to ask for help. You're already doing the hardest part, which is showing up every day and sitting in front of that screen and writing on those pages and think. You know how hard it is to think of a story, let alone how hard it is to put it into words, let alone how hard it is to organize it, let alone how hard is it to hit the last period in your book. It's difficult. But having people around you. Okay? So, remember, relationships, communities, advisors, people we can trust will help define your relationship. Because as they succeed, you succeed. As you succeed, they succeed. All right, there you go. What we got? Always surround yourself with people who value you, but can also push you to greater heights. Absolutely. That's fantastic. We're going to give that one an applause. That's fantastic, Melos. I love it. I love it. And remember, we're not trying to make relationships to be like, what can I get out of this person? We're trying to make relationships to basically say, what do I like about this person that I want to see myself that I am not doing? Oh, they're really they get on a lot of interviews or oh, I love that how they are at events. I saw them at a table at an event, and this okay, here's a quick aside. All right, here's a quick aside. Some book marketing events, like book markets, they're called. Like if you go to them, you're not allowed to actually stand in front of the table, which I find ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But if you're allowed to stand in front of the table and the author is sitting behind the table in a chair like this, and someone comes by and I go, oh, hi. Oh, yeah, I have books. All right. There's a different energy if you're in front of the table and people come by and you go, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And you don't talk about your books and you just make them laugh. I had a friend who also hired me to be at a Comic-Con. And I dressed up in like my my Telmorn outfit and stuff like that. And people would come over and be like, "Oh, nice outfit," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Thanks." And then I would make them laugh, and then we would have some fun. And they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I'm at this table over here hanging out." And they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a book." And then I would shift it off to the client, right? But what drew them into the interest of the book? Was it that there was a book, or was it the interest of my relationship that I built with them in a short amount of time, right? So there is a difference between sitting behind the desk and sitting in front of the desk. So my point is, if you see somebody and you're like, wow, look how free they are. Look how much people are just gravitating to them. I want that. I want to feel that. You know what? If I'm friends with them, I will start just seeing that behavior and I'll start taking up those patterns. Because if you're around 10 quiet people and you're around 10 talkative people or 10 outgoing people, you're going to pick up traits from that. I learned that very early on, especially in my study of psychology and all the other aspects of human behavior. But I used to hang out. I am by design an introvert, believe it or not, right? And I used to hang out with other introverts. But then when I started trying to become more musical, more in the industry, I realized that like the more I stood in the back watching the shows and avoiding people, the less movement the band got. But the more I went up and I just got involved and I talked to fans, not my fans, the fans of everyone else. And then I talked to the other bands and I just started saying hello to people. That changed everything. And then, of course, remember, I was in my 20s, my early 20s. I was also like, I'm the best and everyone's competition. And I was like crazy like that. When I switched that, it was probably maybe like 5 or 6 years into the career. And that was when I started taking the advice of my mentors. Because at first I thought they were crazy because, I knew it all because I was a kid, As soon as I started taking that advice, every time people would be like, oh man, you're so good at guitar. I'd be like, oh, thank you. I just love playing. And I realized like the true version of me was the humble version, was the, like, it's not about being great or the best or everyone's competition. It was about, look, we're just having fun. I'm honored to get there. And then my grandfather's words were in my head where it's just like, you're up there and you have to honor all the musicians before you and all the musicians that will come after you. And you're playing an instrument that was made by people. Well, this is before they were manufactured like that, but like you have an instrument that was made by people, and you got to honor that. And like, there was just so much beauty in the way that it's not necessarily, hey, I'm the best, and look at me, and everybody else needs to fall for me to succeed. And that wasn't. I didn't feel good. I wasn't happy, and it wasn't until I started changing that and starting getting more people. Like, hey, how do I build relationships? That I was happy. And then I realized, wait, maybe this isn't the industry I want to be in. Because everybody was very like people would play, like bands would play, and then at sometimes bands would play, and at the end of at the end of the set, they would be like, "All right, we're done. Everyone, all of our people, we're going to this place to have a party, or we're going here to eat, or and then they would like try to get their crowds to leave. It was crazy. Anyway, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I mean, that's one way. For the poll, what about the option that it's a story that came to you and that you felt the need to tell it, similar to it's a book you needed to read, but foretelling? Foretelling. Oh, hey, by the way, hey, what's up? For the poll, what about the option that it's a story that came to you that you felt the need to tell, similar to? Oh, well, yeah, all right. Well, yeah, let's do the poll anyway. We're up to the poll. Why did you choose the specific story you're writing? So it's the book I needed to read isn't necessarily the same as the book that I had no choice to write. But I think what you're saying is there should be an option for it's the book I needed to write. That's the I had no choice but to write it option. So if I had no choice but to write it, would be the same as it's the book I needed to read. But oh, hey, what's up? A story you want to tell. Hello. Love it. All right. So the poll is, why did you choose the specific story you're writing? We have it's the book I needed to read. We have 58%. Wow. To process a personal emotion, we have 17%. And then we have to start my career making a living. I love that that's 0%. I love it. And then, of course, 25%, I had no choice but to write it. Fantastic. There are no wrong answers. And I'd have to say, which one would I choose? Why did you choose the specific story you're writing? It's the book I needed to read. I think I would pick that one too, because like I do take like ideas. I've talked about this where I'm like, I would like to see what these look like. And that is ultimately the need to read. Like, I want to see these things play out. I want to see these emotions play out. I would love to read this kind of story. So yeah, all right, there we go. We're gonna end the poll with it's the book I needed to read with 58%, 12 votes. Fantastic. Thanks to everyone who was playing along today with that. What do we got here? Oh wait. Let's go. Hey, same for me. My ideas come to me during my time at the Academy of Arts University. That's awesome that you went to the Arts of University. They're holding my family hostage. I had no choice. That was actually going to be the fifth, but I didn't have room for it. Oh, I see. I didn't understand the last option. Yeah. I was just trying to play with words, just trying to be silly. I do a lot of that. Anti-war books are more of a story that needs to be retold over and over. I'm not saying I disagree, my friend. Anti-war. What's funny is I'm writing the series I'm writing is called The Maven Wars. But what's funny in that is it is technically not pro-war. It's obviously anti-war. All right, everybody. Let's get to, if anyone has any questions, we're going to do answering audience questions. So if you have questions about what I talked about today, feel free to ask. While I'm waiting for questions to pop up because there is a delay, let me just tell you, I have some books available. You go to makearightleft.com and you can check them out exclusively on Patreon. The Scribe tier. You can read Death of a King. It is available. The whole first act is currently there, and we are continuing to move forward with a chapter a week. The whole book is done, so it's not like when I say chapter a week, I mean I am publishes a chapter a week. But you also learn a lot about the process in which I wrote it, from the zero draft, short form outlines, to first draft and third draft before the polish. So you also get a deep dive into that. Then obviously you get everything else that's on Patreon, and you're going to be getting some extra stuff soon. Also, 27 plot point outline is currently available. Feel free to purchase it. It is not just a how to outline book. It is an understanding of narrative. So if you're a pantser, you can get the first half of the book will teach you and educate you on narrative purpose and movement, just sort of the have in the wheelhouse. So when you're writing at the seat of your pants. But if you are a plotter or an outliner, the second half of the book will go into a deep dive into outlining, but specifically my method of outlining using the 27 plot point outline. And of course, if you're looking to be successful, this is book 1 of 5. The second book is in process of being formatted, but somebody wants to read it first, so I gotta kind of get that book to her. But it will be out and about. And also, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. Hey, you gotta bloop that beard and bloop that like button. To everybody else, what do we got going? Ooh, we got some comments. All right. Ooh, I have a question. Oh, the poll was I'm glad the poll was interesting. I'm trying to make it a little bit more fun instead of, dreary. Mine is more of a hope punk story. I love it. Kenny, just ask the question. You could ask questions. You're not banned from the questions. For the poll, I started writing it a long time ago and felt an obligation to get it done. I will eventually feel the need to complete the other one I hadn't completed either. You gotta do what you gotta do, my friend. I mean, really, the passion comes from, you want to write, you write, right? If you like the story, write the story. I get it. I also have, like, autism, so if I have to finish stuff. I have a question about where your water is. It's right here. It's canned water. It's canned water. How to do ending narration for chapters, more of an exposition or a quick ending for a friend that's currently doing it. All right, let me reframe that. So I'm gonna say the question again, but like in my own words, and you tell me if that's accurate. I'm just having there's just something that I just want to make sure I'm making sense of it. So are you saying there is like the chapter ends and then there is a narrative aside that is just pure exposition for the ending of each chapter, or just a chapter? Just let me know if that is what you're asking. Basically, the chapter ends and then there's a narrative aside that is exposition at the end of a chapter. Just let me know if that is it, and I will answer that. I want to release my book before the end of the month. What should I price it at? Depends, Afghani. What kind of book is it? What's the genre? Is it hardcover, softcover? Is it a short story? Is it a traditional book? Whatever the case is. Is it a collection of? There's a lot of. Is it just ebook? So these are all things to really. If you could give me a little bit more detail, I could give you a little bit more guidance. Affordable. Bloop the join button. Oh yeah, bloop the join button. Join the memberships. A lot of videos, a lot of future videos will be going into the membership pile, just so you know. Wednesdays and Thursdays will still be available, and as the weekends, lives will always be available. But that extra video, that floating video, I'm going to start putting that into the memberships, just because. All right. By the way, Thomas, I now have 3 other people telling me to make a website. You should be making a website. You have 4 people. Although 2 of them are because of music instead of a novel. Well, I think you should make a website that is dedicated to you as a person or a brand, and then it just so happens you do these other things. In fact, if you go to makearightlefthear.com, you'll see that it is mostly novels now, because I kind of stepped away from other things, but there are hints of other stuff. My music is there. If you scroll them all the way down, you'll see that my music stuff is there, and you could go to my music website. But you should establish a brand for you first. I meant more of a final statement, like the chapter could be ending sooner, but you can squeeze out that extra exposition for some extra exposition of dialogue. All right, if you're going to do that, there are a couple ways. I'll just tell you what you're asking, and then I'll give you sort of like my thoughts on it. So if it's going to sort of be like a narrative exposition at the end, you could actually just turn it into italics, with a space between the last paragraph, and it's sort of like, maybe I could show you. All right, I'm gonna pop it up on the screen. We're gonna do a pop on the screen. Gonna do a pop on the screen. Let's do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. Share the screen. Boop. All right. So, like, let's say it's just you got writing. Okay, there's lots of writing. All right. Let me make this smaller. Let's go to all right. Let's say you have a book like this, right? I'm just writing letters. Ignore this. Okay, but then at the very end, you do a space like that, and then you can be like, in the great, whoops, in the great unknown, the world that once was, Don was lost in the fall of his horse and friends, mostly his horse. So you could do that. You could even do like a little comma things. Whoop. So it would be like the final passage would be like that, and then you do a space, and then you could do that. All right. That is something you can do. Okay, so that is what you're talking about, right? That's the extra exposition, sort of like a narration. What I would suggest though is if that is going to be voice based, like the author themselves, like I want this as a part of my voice as an author. I like the idea of ending a chapter and then having like a small aside. It's all Elvin. It's Elvin. So, but if it is not off the voice and they're just like, how do I add this extra exposition because, I don't know where to put it and I need people to know this, I would still recommend trying to break that exposition up into smaller bite-sized pieces and then slipping it in through conversation or even the narrative just as asides, or as I call it, seeding. It'll allow it to be more memorable, specifically because it's invisible. I know that sounds like almost contradictory, but if we are meant to read chunks of information to recall, it's harder to retain that than it is to learn something over the course of piecemeal. However, if they're looking to just do an exposition dump from a narrator's standpoint, you just do that. You could even do one of these. You could do like, Thomas J. Bellezza. Right? You can make it like somebody said it, like, hey, Thomas said it. Where's the pretty one? There we go. Boop, 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 boop. You could do that, but whatever the character's name is, Lady Moo Moo. All right. You could do that. I hope that answered the question. Fantasy, 260 pages. I guess for all types, paper, hard, and all right. There's a couple of things I would suggest. First and foremost, you have to look at books that are within that page range, but also the genre that it is, because you have to think like the prices are going to range. Also, your viability, like who you are, your name, all these other things. But at the end of the day, like a paperback could be as little as basically $12.99 or $13, whatever. You always do it in 99. It messes with the brain. Up to like $17.99, whatever the case is. But like an ebook is not going to be as expensive, right? And depending on if you want to do, there are certain programs that Amazon KDP will allow you. The book has to be X amount of dollars. But if you're just trying to sell the book, you could do it for $2.99. Like you just want to get the book out there for ebook. But Brandon Sanderson had a good point. Like he talks about, because people always say, your books are so big, are you still making money? because there's a certain price you're going to go to with a hardcover. For example, like $27.99 is like the standard, like $26, $27. That's like the hardcover standard. But you're not going to charge someone $40 for a book, right? Unless it's a special edition. So if it's a special, like, kind of like cover, or it's a unique cover, or there's only going to be like 100 made or whatever, 1,000 made, like, then you could start talking about different prices. But like, he would talk about how, like, his book is X amount of pages, and it doesn't matter if it's a to market book or if it's a hardcover. It doesn't matter if it's 6.9 by whatever it is, 5.3. But I think they're getting rid of the aren't they getting rid of the mass market books? I think they're getting rid of the mass. I think they're getting rid of the mass market books. I believe they are. But your pricing range is going to be there. My suggestion to you is, your book is 260 pages. That's about, what is that, 80,000, maybe that 80,000 words, right? Yeah, about 80,000 words, right? So look for books that are around the same page, same word count, same genre, and think like that. However, your brand is also going to dictate to that too. So if your audience is big enough, you can price it more average base, or you can cut it down if you want to try to build more sales, make it a little lower. I remember with my my poetry book. Let me look at my poetry book real quick. My poetry book, I think I have it really, really affordable. Like, it's really low. Yeah, I have it for $9.99 for the paperback. And the reason is, it's still a big book though. It's still a big book, but it's only like 300. Oh, it's 200. Well, it's 217 pages ish, right? But I wrote this book for just to sort of, because I had just beaten cancer, and then about a year later ish, I was like, I want to kind of make a collection of all the poems I ever wrote, and like song lyrics and like philosophical thoughts. And I was like, let me just put a book together. I just want to publish it. So I even use like like, like one of the, I didn't even use like a top level headshot, but that book, I wasn't thinking of how much. I was just like, I just want people to buy it, so $10, And the ebook is like $3, I think, and then if you have Kindle Unlimited, you could get it for free. Because it's 237 pages altogether, like with all the front end stuff. But I didn't. It wasn't like, oh, this is the book I'm gonna sell. It was just a book that I did for myself. So again, it comes down to what your mission is too. Like, what is your goal? Do you want to sell all the books, or you want to sell some books? Or you want to sell, do you have a demand? Do you have to supply to demand? If I ever read one of his books, I would inevitably have to set a schedule pace for myself to get through. Oh, you're talking about Sanderson? Yeah. I tried to read Sanderson books, and I was like, let me just get the audiobook, because it's easier to be like doing the dishes or cleaning or doing my laundry with like the audiobook going, because it's so long. I'm on the third book of his. I read Mistborn, Way of the Kings, and I'm on Words of Radiance right now. Not my favorite book. I did that with King back in the day. Oh, it's Stephen the King. I found out I love Afghani. I would love to hear, because I was talking to my friend about this too. What is it about Sanderson that made you fall out of love with him, other than his new glasses, that he did a video about getting new glasses? That's when I fell out of love. Yes. I audio Dark Tower when I went through that one. My friend was like, "You got to read Dark Tower," and I go, "How many books are there?" And I think there's like seven, right? There's 7 or 8 books. How many books in Dark Tower? There's 8. There's 8. Yeah, 7 or 8 books. Uh, and his brother was there, and his brother goes, "You only got to read the first book," and I was like, "Why?" Right? And then my friend who was like telling me to read the series, he goes, "Yeah, but by book 6, book 7, it gets good." And I was like, "Are you telling me you want me to read one good book and then I got to read 4 or 5 really bad books cuz the brother was like they are terrible just to get to us. Why don't I just read book 1, 7 and 8?" And then the brother's like, "8 is not good." I was like, I'm not gonna read a series. People, bad sales over here. I'm not. I don't believe either one of you. Oh, the storm, like, oh, too long, too long. I've never had that complaint. Um, what do you? Um, uh, Flutterfingers. Really? The length of the book is what, or the length of the series is what got you? Does that mean you don't like Game of Thrones? Wait, do you not like? No, because Wheel of Time is really long too, right? Do you like Wheel of Time? How long is the Wheel of Time books? Yeah, because they're massive. Yeah, some of the books average 800 words, 800 pages, 800 words. I can read that in like an hour. 800 pages. The longest book is the final book, In Memory of Light, also written by Brandon Sanderson. 909 pages. Jesus. The prequel is 400 pages, but book 1 is 800 plus. Book 2 is 700 plus. Book 3, right? Hey, what's up, Goo? Oh, I wanna know how the pie's going, Emma, how's the pie? Hello there. Good to be back. Was out for reasons. Fair, but I'm glad you're here. I hope you're okay. But good news, I managed to get your second, 2 books. The one about success and the one about writing. Can't wait to dig in. Awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to buy those books. Fantastic. Yeah, please let me know, if you like the books. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. And again, reasons, I hope you're okay. I hope everything's working out. Not just the length, it's more that okay, I like unnecessary. Do you read long? Have you read you've read Wheel of Time, right? You seem like a Wheel of Time guy. That is not a knock, by the way. Being a Wheel of Time person is not a knock. Having read the original Mistborn trilogy and The Way of Kings, I'm surprised he's such an outliner. It feels to me like the story just goes and goes and goes. I do not disagree. Let's be honest though, the first Mistborn, the ending is just terrible. Uh he doesn't outline, how do I put it? From what I studied from him, because I did a video on him doing how he outlines. How he outlines isn't necessarily where he deep dives. He just sort of like has these beats, these narrative nodes, as I might call them, and he just in each chapter he writes out what he wants to move forward in the to reach those nodes. But he's not a deep dive outliner. Uh, because according to him, as per his words, he wants to write. He doesn't want to get stuck in outlining paralysis. Um, that's why I do what I do, where I start small. I start with like a sentence or 3 or 4 sentences to like represent a narrative node, and then from there I break that up into chapters, and then from there I go deeper into the chapters, and then from there I start adding so I'm like always building on it. So instead of spending lots of time on like back end stuff, I'm just creating the outline or developing and detailing the outline as I'm writing. So that helped me not only keep writing, but also outline and write faster. I am ready. Oh, I am reading, but there's a vampire one in the way at the moment. A vampire? Oh, vampire. You gotta watch out for those vampires. Like, I can't feel the ups and downs of a traditional story structure plot points. I do like his world building, but it feels a lot told in a. I agree with that. Yeah, that was something I was talking to my friend about, where we were saying like the ideas that he comes up with are really, really good. The concepts are good. The world building is fantastic. Some of his characters are all just perfect. But then like the presentation is where I feel it lacks. Because it's like a lot of information building up, and then like really awesome stuff, and then like lots of information, and then like more information building up to the next thing, and then like really awesome stuff, and then like and I feel like if we just cut his exposition out and just added and like just kind of allowed it to like be flow through the narrative, his books would be half the size. And I'm not against long books. I mean, Death of the King is 250,000 words or something like that. I haven't read Wheel of Time. I read other Robert Jordan stuff, and I don't like him. All right, well, that's fair. To hell with John. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Uh, I'm assuming. I'm assuming you like straightforward stuff. What's this? Oh yeah, ideas are great, but I don't know if yeah, exactly. The execution is like what? Like Vin is a great character and her arc is beautiful, but yeah, venture. It just felt like an epic, like an NPC. Yeah, like hello, I am here to give information and help. I agree. All right, wait, back it up, Afghani. All right, listen. I agree with what you're saying, and also if you don't like Wheel of Time, no pushback. However, your age is showing, my friend. Now I know you're not my age. Robert Jordan may feel super generic today, but Robert Jordan is the reason people write certain way now and have evolved. It's like saying Lord of the Rings feels so yesterday. When Jordan came out, his writing was way different in the sense of it changed the landscape. There was a depth to it. Do I disagree with your analogy, your assessment? Not at all. I have a hard time reading Wheel of Time, and like there are things that I wouldn't do that he does a lot of. Again, I do not like exposition dumps. I don't need these huge world building asides. I like it kind of weaved inside. But you, it feels super generic. Back in the early 2000s, well, yeah, 26 years ago. Uh, uh, All right, listen. His books came out in 1990, which means he was writing a little bit before that. So his style of writing is, what is that, 30 plus years old? You know what I'm saying? Like he's writing, he can't. I am not disagreeing with your dislike of him. That is a taste thing. But to say that his writing is super generic, I feel today's standards, same thing with Lord of the Rings. Like today's standards of writing is definitely different than the standards of writing back in the 20s or whatever it was, 20 something. But when it comes to same thing with Jordan, 1990 was the first book or something, I believe, right? The Eye of the World came out in 1990, 91ish. The style of writing was so different back then. But I'm not disagreeing with. There are books there. For example, I love the Dragonlance, Dragon of Autumn Twilight, Dragon of Dawn. I love those books. But I agree. Like looking at those books now through the lens of what not only I have learned as a writer, but also the development and evolution of writing. You look back at that and you're like, Jesus, what choices? But at the time, the writing was so, it was technically considered new and different, and it moved, and it had its own taste and touch. But now, like I've been actually listening to the Dragonlance books through audiobook recently, just to sort of like go back for nostalgia. And I'm listening and I'm just like, oh, but it's so good still, like I'm still like Raceland is still awesome. Tanis Havel is fun. You got Tasselhoff. Oh, I found your wallet. Um, like the ideas are still there, but the execution, there's a lot of telling. There's a lot of like summaries of things where they're just like, this happens and then this happens and this happens. But for what it was back then, it was something that moved the genre forward. It was a needed step. That I'm not arguing your point. I in the sense of like I agree if you don't like it or if like you have a certain feeling for it, I accept it. I'm just saying that maybe I, I guess I'm defending the thing, but like again, if we read certain books that are written in the 1800s, we're gonna be like, what's with this writing, like compared to today. So, but not liking that style is another thing. Like if you don't, there are certain styles I don't like to read. So I get it. I get it. There are times when I was reading King, the Stephen of the King, when I felt like he was getting very contrary to that, almost every time I've read a Decker book, it feels like the last quarter of his stories are manic. Well, that's an interesting insight. I'm yeah, King is like somebody obviously he sells millions of copies just being like I wrote a food my grocery list and people are like, well, I'll buy a million. Um but there are for sure I reading his stuff is so difficult sometimes because I'm just like he just rambles. Or I talk about it as a good example where it's like they're on a long time ago there's a small town. Oh, Georgie's running down the street. Georgie's sister in high school in her class is da 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 da. And now we're talking about the sister, but we're like, aren't we supposed to be with Georgie? And then he starts talking about like traffic jams, and I'm just like, and that's like that's not even, that's the first page. Whiplash. But nowadays, whatever. I was told Wheel of Time is better than his other work. I watched some of the show and I recognized him in there. I would argue that the show is not good. That's the best. That's the nicest way of saying that. In pacing, like he was excited and rushing to get it out. Well, what's funny about that assessment of, you're talking about Decker books. Um that as a developmental editor, that is something I see in newer writers because or writers that have been writing a book for so long, and it's a 200,000 word book or even a 100,000 word book, and they're like right at the end, and now what they put into the book in the beginning, for that's why a lot of times the first act is just so full and alive, and then what do people run into? Saggy middle. And the middle just sort of like because they put so much extra time into the first act. They built things up, they went back and adjusted and edited. Then you get to the middle chapters and you're like, oh, and you're just trying to get through it, and then by the end you're just like, let's just end this book. We're already at chapter 60 or whatever, which isn't really, remember, the amount of chapters you have doesn't make a book long, because you could be using chapters to set pace and rhythm. So a chapter could be a page long, it could be 5 pages long, it could be 15 pages long, then you could have like a 6-page chapter, and then you could have a 3-page chapter, right? So don't worry about chapter count. Like if you, oh, I have 100 chapters. Yeah, but if that 100 chapters makes up 100,000, you know what I'm saying? What is that? 1,000 pages, 1,000 words per chapter or whatever it is, right? Is that right? 100,000 divided by 100. Yeah, it's 1,000 words per chapter. Those are fast chapters. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? That's maybe 3 pages per chapter or 2.5 pages per chapter. But yeah, that does happen where it's like, let me just get the book over, and then they just kind of rush that ending. It is something that I do see. But he also has all, no, it's not that he has the fantasy tropes. It's that Robert Jordan is one of the greater forefathers that invented the tropes. It's like reading a book. It's like reading Lord of the Rings and being like, the found family trope. Ugh. And it's like, well, he invented the found family trope, or the journey trope, or the best friend trope, or the like the Dark Lord trope. No, he invented it. And the same thing with Wheel of Time. There are a lot of tropes in there that exist because he It was, the chosen one. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But again, I am not denying your dislike of the book. But what I'm saying is you can't be like, 30 years later and he has a chosen one. No, of course he has the chosen one. Of course he has the chosen one. It exists for a reason. We have to thank Mr. Peabody over there. In fact, when did the first chosen one trope come out in a novel? Well, technically Gilgamesh in 2100 BC. So, all right, fine. If you're like, oh, Wheel of Time. So all the ancient stories, the chosen ones, Perseus, Hercules, Jason in Greek mythology, Dune, Lord of the Rings, Aragorn is technically considered the chosen one. Paul Atreides is a chosen one. I'm just saying. It's not, Can't wait. Imagine reading Epic of Gilgamesh and be like, it's contrived. It has the chosen one trope. It has the chosen one trope. All right. Anyway, I'm just playing around, my friend. All right. Fantasy is the reflection of the writer, Afghani. It's more of a taste. Agreed. Fantasy is fantasy no matter what you write. It's all about style and substance. Yeah, the only thing I might push back on that, Malos, and I agree with the majority of it, is fantasy no matter what you write. I agree with fantasy is fantasy no matter what you write if you're just saying in the sense of fantasy rules. But fantasy, in essence, would be the impossible becoming possible through some sort of variation of, the mystics or the divine. Because ultimately, Gone Girl is a fantasy. Not a fantasy book, but it is fiction, right? So, but if you're saying fantasy and fantasy genre, then I agree 100%. Yeah, like fantasy as in like the genre of fantasy. The genre. You know what? I take it back. I agree with everything you just said. All right. Not to claim either are similar to each other. I'm missing the context, but I think you're talking about Stephen King and Decker. I think. His books go like this. The Dark Lord is trying to destroy the world. Only you can save it. They killed the Dark Lord. Second book, The Dark Widow. All right, again, I don't disagree. Wait a minute. Didn't you say you didn't read the books? You said you didn't read Wheel of Time. How do you know? The first book doesn't end with the death of the... Does it? I gotta think about that. No, because he fights... maybe. I don't know. Pacing can make or break your story, for sure. I think Tolkien invented it. No, Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh. I'm reluctant to do a trope release because I don't want to spoil. I agree with your Flowers. That is a choice, though. I lean more towards what you're saying. Like, I'm not gonna have on my books like it's this trope and that trope and this trope. I'm gonna leave that all of it. I do want to write something that says that something about it being real, like the story is real, something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I want to play with the idea. Like Star Wars is a long time ago. In a world of what is it, a far off land, long time ago. The idea of the chosen one and the prophecy have been around since antiquity. Correct. I will say this about Death of the King. I subvert fantasy tropes on purpose. So what you think it is not what it ends up being. So people might start reading it and be like, oh, it's that trope. And then if you can make it to the end of Act 1, the tropes should be in full, already in the subversion. But once you get to Act 2, the middle of Act 2, the subversions are clear. And then once you get to Act 3, you're like, oh, okay, I know what this book is. This is not what which is good because that's the goal, right? I read, Legend of the Seeker. Yeah, but that's not Wheel, is it? Legend of the Seeker. Oh, you know that was a TV show for 2 seasons, 2008. Look at that. Look at that. Anyway, Malos. A lot of times I wound up feeling with King, let's get somewhere already. Then with Decker, I'm like, dude, calm down, put the caffeine down, and let's enjoy it. I agree. Yeah, the ending of a story you should feel like it's happening. I do agree that the third act should move quicker than the rest of the book, but I think it should still have weight to it. It should still have depth and movement and shouldn't be rushed in the sense, but it should be faster. It should definitely be faster in Act 1, and it should be a little quicker than Act 2. But if you have Act 2 and then you go into Act 3 and then it goes, it just feels like it just stopped, that would kill the narrative momentum. But I do agree with you, Ro. I do agree with you that the ending shouldn't just be like, whoa, this and this and this and this, and it's over. Some people are micro-troping. Oh, so those are kind of off the beating track things you didn't know you needed. Oh, yeah, like they do a little here, a little there. Beta readers say my middle isn't sagging. However, even with the inciting incident at the end of chapter 1, I need to catch the reader up on info in narrative flow, and it's boringifying the beginning a lot. Interesting. Reader up on info. Obviously, the best form of advice would be in the form of me looking at it and then giving advice. But in general, I'll generalize some feedback to that, where don't think of it as information, like you need to know this. Put it into the perspective of the characters and them discovering it or revealing it, and allowing the scene not to be constructed for the information, but the information is a part of the texture or the flow of it. And remember, you have the whole first half of your narrative all the way to the midpoint conflict to technically give the reader enough information. But the whole first act is where they should understand the setup of the world. So that's the plot, the characters, and the rules of that world. So if your first act is 15 chapters, I'm assuming it might be a fantasy, but if it's 15 chapters, everything we need to know is in there, but not because we're being like, not because it's a sit down and explain, but because we're learning through behavior, we're learning through cause and effect, we're learning through, trials and tribulations, and you discover who these characters are. So that's something to think about. But again, the better way to do that would be if I was reading it and I was able to kind of like give it insight. It's possible to put an original spin on tropes. Robert Jordan doesn't do that. But again, this is 30 years ago. Robert Jordan. Never mind. I don't disagree with you, Evgeny, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? It's like if I invented a very specific trope of like, whoever's drinking the soda in the story is the killer. Right? And then 30 years goes by and people are writing stories where the person who drinks the soda is the killer. And then you go back and read the book I wrote where the guy, and you're like, oh, it's just, there's just no spin on it. It's just another generic soda. The killer drinks the soda. 30 years have passed by. Everything you've read is anyway. Again, I don't disagree per se, but you got to put a little bit of context on it. All right. I guess where we're at is no one has any questions about their books, I'm assuming. If you did, I'd be happy to answer. We had a couple of questions. I love the questions, you know that. Tomorrow Tomorrow we again, remember the time change is there, so I don't know what the difference is. Let me look at my phone cuz my phone has I put London's time on my phone. I did. I have London and I have what should we call it? The whatever, states. The states. There's my clock. There's my clock. There's my clock. Do do do. All right, let's see. Right now, world clock. It is 7:30 in London. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a 4-hour difference now, whereas before the time jump, it was a 5-hour difference. So that means my 2 o'clock is going to be your 6 o'clock. Got it. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's a 4-hour difference. So to make it, does that mean to make it, to make it the original time, does that mean I have to start at 1? Because 1, yeah, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wouldn't that be? Yeah, I try to make it relevant to the characters at the moment. Instead, I just, by the way, here's some information about the world. But most people have dropped the story in the first few chapters, but if they get through it, they fly to the end. Yeah, I mean, remember, you're not restricted to the first couple of chapters. You have plenty. You can't explain the world after the midpoint conflict because the second half of the story is about finding a solution to the midpoint conflict's problem, and then Act 3 is all about the resolution to that problem, using the solution, if it is real or not, to solve the problem of the midpoint conflict. So you're not really trying to build on anything at that point. You're just trying to. You'll be back to 7 here. So if I go back, if I start at 1 o'clock, that becomes a 5-hour difference. Yeah, because right now I'm a 4-hour difference. It's 9:30 for Angel Faye. Oh, does that mean it's? Oh, yeah, it's earlier. You are always 5 hours behind in the UK. But it's 3:30 now, isn't it? Are you telling me it's 8:30 in the UK right now? If it's 8:30 in the UK, then it wouldn't be 3:30 here if it's a 5-hour. I mean, if it's 8:30 in the UK, then it is. I don't understand why we're on farmer's time. You know, like why do we have the jump ahead, fall back? You know what I'm saying? Like just let's be on all time. Yeah, we actually tried getting closer to your time. Didn't they pass a bill in Congress that was like, hey, let's get rid of the daylight savings? I feel like we aren't doing it. Daylight savings will be on the 20. Israel has. I'm sorry, you're in Israel, right? I hate it. My brain is like, I can't breathe. My daylight savings will be the 20. So there's daylight savings. Oh, I thought the states were the only people. See, I don't know. Are your clocks forward tonight? My clocks are as is. They are not moving again. They already moved once, and it's currently 3:30 here. Me, I'm still on the winter clock. The winter clock to your time. See, right now it is 2:30. UK clocks. Oh, hey. UK clocks go forward next week. Oh, UK gets a pop. Oh, so everybody does daylight savings? UK is 2 hours behind me. Oh. 7:30 now. So if it's 7:30, it's 3:30 here. So we are 4 clocks forward tonight. Interesting. Does every country have daylight savings? No. Only about a third of the world's countries practice it, primarily in Europe. North America, and parts of Southern Hemisphere. Most of Asia, Africa, and South America do not use DST, as countries nearer the equator experience little variation in daylight hours. Approximately 70 countries use DST, with many focusing it in Northern Hemispheres summer or Southern Hemisphere summer. Who doesn't use it? Majority nations that do not observe DST include China, India, Japan, and most of Africa and South America. However, over the past decade, several countries have abolished it, including Russia, Turkey, and Iran. Actually, it's Iran, right? It's Iran. Uh, Forgive my accent. In 2022, Mexico had decided to end DST in most of its territories. Learned something new today. Everyone remember to set your clocks back. I mean, your clocks back. Sorry. If I may ask, how old were you when you started writing professionally? How long did it take to become finally? Well, I'll tell you right now, we're never finally good. We're always learning. Well, let's see. My first play was put on in 2014, but I had started writing before then screenplays. So I would say 2018 was when I was writing full-time screenplay, like meaning people would hire me to write screen. If I didn't have one screenplay, a minimum per year, once 2018 hit, the end of 2017 is when I started seeing more frequent. I never was not without a screenplay to write for somebody. Well, 2017 is when I won an award. I guess 2017. 2017 is when I was like, I'm good. My TV show got the screenplays got a bunch of notice and got pushed around the industry, and that's when I started getting all those meetings. So I guess I would say that was evidence that I was good, because we're not supposed to claim that. We're not supposed to be like, I'm good. But studios and everybody else was talking about my screenplays, and everybody wanted to hire me, and I did a lot of that. I also got 2018-ish is when I started getting hired a lot to clean up screenplays. And then I would say when my dad died, when my mom died, I started stepping away. When my dad died, I stepped away. But as far as books go, my first book I ever wrote technically was 2007 ish, 8 maybe, whatever. The book we do the edit thing on, whatever that year was, that Emma did the edit. We did a real edit in real time. That was my first book. And then I sort of wrote here and there, wrote short stories and ideas, scenes, and then I kind of really dug into screenplays, and then I came back to long form narratives. So I've been writing a long time. But how old were I? I was whatever that is, 2000. Let's see. By 2007 minus my year, I was 29 when I was getting into the writing. Yeah, so there you go. But I wrote comic books in 1997. I worked in comic books. I did illustration. They asked me to do some writing stuff. I was always like sort of like in that world, if that makes sense. I was always like writing stories or ideas for people, even if it was short stories or short ideas. I did a lot of copy for marketing stuff, like with my production company. I wrote all the lyrics to my songs. Um, but the songs were like stories, so I would take story ideas and then turn them into lyrical form. I got hired a lot to write lyrics for other people and when I was in the music industry. So, I've always been writing. So, I guess it was 18 when I really got into it. Uh, so that I that's probably a terrible long answer to answer your question. But how long did it take to become finally good? I would say when I started getting people talking about my writing. But what did I say? It takes 10 books to become good. Uh, but I don't think I could be the judge of if I'm good or not. It's even with my music. Like I knew I could play, but I didn't think I was good. And then people started paying me money to play, and I was like, that's good enough for me. I hope that answers your question. Do they even have clocks? Never. Wait, are you talking about in Mexico? All right. So you will be back to 2 p.m. and when ours go forward, we will be 7 p.m. Maybe. I don't know how the time works. I'm almost 50 and I'm still confused. So, and some people use LSD instead of DST. It's funny. UK go forward the last Sunday of March. I have heard it is a good platform to get feedback and even get paid for writing. What are some good platforms to get your? So I use Patreon, but I am on Substack. I am not full force on Substack yet. I'm still kind of building and understanding the platform before I go into it. But ultimately, I'm going to have Patreon and Substack. So if people want to be on Patreon, it will be the same exact thing as if they're on Substack. So, no one has to do any switching over. I'm just going to literally have two platforms doing the same thing. Substack is a good writers platform. There is feedback if you have your stuff available for everybody to see. I would say your quote unquote weaker works, meaning like you haven't worked it. It's just like loose drafts. So it would be good for that. But you can make paywalls, and that's how people could pay for it. But I use Patreon mostly. Um, but Substack is interesting. I've been liking what I'm looking at. I just haven't gone into it as far as posting. I think I posted maybe 3 things, but I'm mostly on there studying it and looking at what people are doing. And I'm building. You can make like a loose website on it, but I have a website. Make a right left here.com. Now, as far as our clocks being forward or on, no, everybody's with these clocks. Thomas was 263 in his view by the time he got good at writing. Look, if people are asking you to write, that's how you know you're good, But I mean, I wrote a lot of shorts, screenplays. I wrote a lot of shorts. But I wrote speeches for people. I wrote speeches for myself. I wrote, like writing is writing. Like if you could find it wherever it is. To that age question, thank you for answering. J.K. Rowling was like 30. Terry Goodking, yeah, Terry Pratchett was 35. Guess you need some age to mature you out. I don't know. Some authors were very young. Wasn't Jane Austen? Wasn't she like? Yeah, Mary Shelley was 18. S.E. Hinton, who published The Outsiders, was also 18. Uh, let's see. Anne Frank was 13. What? Let's see. Gordon Corman was 14. It's not on this list I'm looking at, but the guy who wrote Aragon, what's the fucking dragon Aragon? Yeah, Aragon. He was like 16 or something when he got published. I don't think it matters how old you are to get published. But also, some people might publish a book and it'll be the greatest thing ever, and then they never publish again. Or some people might publish a book and it's great, and that was the book they had to write, and they just can't write. So their next book isn't as good, and so forth and so on. As long as you're always practicing and studying your craft, I think you're going to evolve as a writer, which I think is important. Yeah, Christopher yeah, that's his name. Um I don't think age is really a concern because again, if we look at my career in the entertainment industry, is again I started as an illustrator for comic books, and that was I was 17, 16, 17, 18 is when I got my contract. Uh, then I sort of left that world and started going into the music world. And I was in music for 10 years. Then I was comedy and acting for 10 years. And then, I had a theater during that time. And I had, I was writing, like I said, I was writing for magazines and newspapers. I was doing like reviews and stuff. And then, I got into writing more, the screenplays. And then, so it's interesting because like every 10 years if you look back maybe you yourself you're also doing these leapfrogs where you can reinvent yourself, so I wouldn't really be too concerned about age when it comes to like a career. Again, I'm 48. I sort of took a little break uh from being active, but my COVID happened what, 2020, something like that. And wow, my dad's been gone since how is time so quick? Yeah. I only started the YouTube channel when my mom died, and then I had to take care of my dad, and then he passed away, and I just stayed with it. So, the YouTube channel's going to be 4 years old next month. Well, technically, it's already 4 years old, but I didn't post my first video until May because I was recording. I did a batch recording. Um, so yeah, your life, you can start whenever. I would not allow I wouldn't let age be a deterrent or a deciding factor in like when you're good or not. You're not really the person who can gauge how good you are because we have a bias. You should believe you're good. You should believe you know what you're doing. You should believe that you still always need to be working at it. Like don't ever stop working at it. One of my close friends who's basically like a brother, and um, we were talking the other day where it's like the moment you think you're great and you don't need to get better, that's when your skill level just goes. You got to always be working at it. Um, doesn't matter how old you are. Though I will also stand on the hill that no matter how great you are or how great you think you are, that doesn't necessarily equate to success because success is a matter of variables that have nothing to do with I can write well. If that makes sense. So authors start at a young age and move up. Yeah, but some authors start at 30 or 40 and they move up. But again, so like To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee, one book. Catcher in the Rye, only book. you know, so um, Gone with the Wind, Margaret Mitchell, one book. Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, one book. Okay. Uh, Susan Clark wrote three books. I'm just saying, sometimes you got a book in you, sometimes you got 10 books in you, sometimes, it happens. Also, Grimm was way into his career before making, I can't even pronounce it. Asiof. Asiof. Grimm. How old was Grimm? He became successful in writing. In porn, what? Let's see. First of all, 1785. Wow. All right. He was in mid to late 20s when the brothers Grimm, achieved their first major success in writing. Interesting. Well, the rest of us grow old, Thomas. So yes, age does well, I almost died when I had cancer, so if I worried about that, I would not be doing what I'm doing. Like There has to be a certain point where you just accept what's to come and you focus on what you have to do and you just try to live life to the fullest. I write when I get time, always wanted to write, but I serve AF, so not much creativity hits you when you are under stress. I agree with that. Keep trying, though. The older I get, 40, the less clear this dream looks. Well, I am 48, and I am technically starting my author career 2018 would when this book came out, that is technically when my author career began because I authored a book, even though I had authored many scripts and some of them were filmed. But you know, what is that? 8 years? 8 years. But I've been writing before that. I've been teaching before. I taught writing in 2014, 2015 when I had the theater. You know, so but again, if you just focus on writing and you're not building a platform, that is also going to impede on your success. If you're not building relationships with certain people, because you got to remember, you know, you might, when I was in acting, every agent or manager I ever got was through a friend that was like, oh, I want to introduce you to my manager or my agent. Every opportunity I got to pitch a show or a movie was through a friend's relationship. Every time I got money for something, friend relationship. Every time I got, so I worked on Gotham a couple times. The first time was the casting director I knew. The second time was they liked me when I worked because I made friends with people. The third time was they liked me and wanted me to work. When it came to SNL, same thing. The first time I got into SNL was through a friend. They got me a connection. The connection said, sure, put your name on the, you know, let's get you in. I came in, I was professional, I did what I did, I made friends with everybody. I thanked, I'm not going to say name, but I thanked the person who handled the bookings. I get texts, now, you know, well, not as much now, but I still get them occasionally. But when I was in the city, I would, hey, you want to come in? You want to come in? You want to come in? Every opportunity was through relationships. Every big opportunity was a friendship. So, you know, you got to still be pretty proactive out there outside of just writing a book. But also if you could just write rambling for 15 minutes a day, that's still practicing the craft and getting your mind on there, you know. I started 4 years ago when I was 34. You're 34? I thought you were 28. Look at you. Look at you. I started writing a book every month when I was a kid. Never finished any of them. Yeah, but you're finishing them now, and that's good. I meant George Martin and a song of George Martin, Song of Ice and Fire. Let's see. Yeah, Martin was Martin's never gonna finish. Um, that's funny. What did I? Oh, I have dyslexia, so I'm looking at it now. GRRM. I read it as Grim. See, dyslexia. That's funny though. Yeah. All right. What did he write then? Let me reread that. Was way into his career before making of Song of Ice and Fire. Yes, agreed. Yeah, he was way in. He was also had a career though. So George Martin wrote sci-fi, didn't go anywhere. He started writing television screenplays, and then he developed that one scene with the wolves and the winter snow, and or the summer snows or whatever you called it, and and then he developed the first scene of Game of Thrones, and that was it. That was it. But he was way into his career as a screenwriter. He wrote for Beauty and the Beast and stuff, the television show with Ron Perlman and everything. The Brothers Grimm writes short stories that feel like more like outlines. They are about 1 page long, not much dialogue, like an idea notebook. Some really deserve a deeper dive, which is a riff on them. Interesting. Yeah, but again, that's what their times called for. That's what they wrote, you know, and that doesn't mean people can't do that today. If you wrote a scene, like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs or 2 pages, and you had a beginning, a middle, and end, you're writing. If you could turn a beginning, a middle, and end out, make first, you know what I'm saying? Like it's still writing. You don't have to write full books. You just have to practice your craft, you know. Now I know. You are messing with me. All right. I got into writing after college in 2007 or 07. Then stopped to take care of my father. Very admirable. I continued during 2010 or what 10 to 2020 after my parents died. You and me, my friend. I stopped to mourn, which you should. And then I got serious in 2025, and I haven't stopped. I'm really proud of you, man. Look, to go through what you've gone through, to have those ups and downs, and to still be motivated to keep going. You know, I'm always here for you, buddy. I'm always here to if you need inspiration or you need somebody to hey, get those pages out. You just let me know. I'm almost 39. Sorry, I was 35 in 2022. Did you just say you were 34? 30? That's a big difference. That's all right. I still think I'm 16, but my back would say otherwise. My back would say otherwise. All right, everybody. We had fun today. Look at that. We kicked some butt. We kicked some butt. All right, I'm out. Tomorrow I will be here with write a book with me from concept to completion. We are flying through that, but I'm gonna try to get another chapter done. You're 38. Age is but a number. That's right. Age is. I wish I was 38 again. I wish I was 38 again. But I am not. So the story can be even a 3 words. Yes, kids' shoes unworn. But yeah, modern prose, God advanced. Yeah, they got advanced. And so did the demand. Yeah, but again, if you're not writing to have a career yet, practice your craft. If you want to have the moment, this isn't just for you, this is just for everybody. The moment you want to make money as a writer, it's no longer just about your book. The book is a part of it, but really you got to start building a brand. You got to start building relationships, just like the video was for today. And you got to start getting involved in your community. If you don't do those other 3 things, plus a couple other things, the book will never bring you success. So it doesn't matter if you write a page or 1,000 pages. The truth is, people need to know that you exist. I can't sell this book if I just write it. I have to tell somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, with that said, thank you again for coming by. I'm glad you're doing better and you were able to watch and hang out with us. To everyone else, SB, much love. I'll see you later tonight. See you next time, everybody. Flowers. I'm out of here. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ciao, bello. Hasta luego. Wiedersehen.